Well, to help kind of transition into our next topic, what is the difference between cancel culture and corporate executives canceling shows due to ratings or finance? Like, we know there's a difference, obviously, but what is the, in essence, difference? Jake, we'll start with you.
Well, to me, corporate executives canceling a show is a little bit more concrete than the internet canceling a person.
That's true.
Usually when a show gets canceled, we don't see it come back. There's not many Family Guys. There's not many Futuramas. There's not many shows that actually get to go get a second wind. Like look at Firefly. How long have we been trying to get Firefly back?
Right.
But then Chris Brown, we can't keep his piece of garbage ass out of the media.
Exactly.
And so it's one of those where I think like when a corporate executive cancels you, like if the record executives had finally decided that Chris Brown wasn't selling records, Chris Brown would finally get canceled. Like I think one of the biggest reasons R. Kelly has been so hard to cancel throughout the years is because the dude still sells records too. It's like, money talks. And so like, that's the thing. When executives cancel you, you're actually canceled. I think they have a better ban hammer than the internet does.
Yeah, exactly. Brahman, what do you think? What is the main difference between corporate executives canceling a show or a TV show and cancel culture?
Well, I think that one is just based on data, like something like a show is just based on data, like how much money it's making for the most part. But in the other essence, it's based on morality and ethics. And that is where I feel like there's more of a gray area, or like the line can get blurred. Like it can either go really extreme in one way or really extreme in the other. But if you're just looking at numbers, if you're saying this is making X amount, you're not making an emotional decision. You're just like making a business decision.
Yeah, I get that. I think the biggest difference is the balance of power. Obviously, when you the cancel culture, when you're talking about corporate execs canceling something, they could be canceling it for a variety of reasons, mostly financial, but it's all those people at the very, very top. Again, as Jake said, we haven't been able to bring back Firefly despite all the cries that we want for it to come back. But when it's cancel culture, one of the things that I do really like about cancel culture is it brings a lot of that power back to the people. It brings it back into social media. It brings it so that we can make collective stances against people and say, hey, we don't want to idolize people like Roseanne Barr. We don't want to idolize people like Bill Cosby. We don't want to idolize people like Kevin Spacey. And we don't and having them in their position that they are in naturally does that. So they need to be removed from that position. And I think that to me is the most powerful aspect of it, is the fact that the power is with the people,
Yeah. With the people.
With the people. Now, with that said, it's a great transition into our top Zen, which is the best canceled shows of 2020. Now, we're not talking about cancel culture here, guys. They're not talking about shows. Well, some of them actually do have a little bit to do with that. But we were talking about shows that got the axe from up top. They're not coming back, or at least for the foreseeable. And let's just get right into it, because there's tons of shows on here to talk about. Number 10 on our countdown is going to be the legendary Tosh.0. Tosh.0 was a staple when I was in high school. But like much of Daniel Tosh's fan base, the fan base outgrew Daniel Tosh's humor. Tosh.0 ran for 12 seasons as one of the most successful internet soup rip-offs of all time. And Comedy Central has made the decision weeks ago, shortly after they've renewed this for 4 more seasons. Jake, do you think that Comedy Central did Tosh dirty here, or was it about time?
I think we talked about it a little bit. It was either last week or the week before, whenever we were talking about how Tosh.0 was getting the axe. But I think it's almost ran its course. It's one of those where do we really need another kind of it's ridiculousness, Tosh.0, like all these come on, dude, I have the internet on my phone. I don't need I don't need it on the TV. And so I do think that Tosh.0 is it's time for Comedy Central to kind of send it on down the dirt, the dusty road, or whatever the fuck they want to say. But then I think it may find its home somewhere else. I think one streaming service, maybe YouTube, Red or one of those guys may pick it up. Who knows?
There you go. You never know. And it is being shopped around right now, so it could come back. But we will see. Number 9 on the countdown, though, is something that I've said in the past that I was actually okay with being canceled, which is I'm not okay with this. Brahman, tell us a little bit about I'm not okay with this.
Yeah, so I'm Not Okay with This is a coming of age drama based on the comic book by Charles Forsman about a telekinetic teenage girl. And this is being canceled right after its very first season, so it won't be renewed for a second season. And this is one of the first shows in the batch where Netflix is citing it as a COVID related cancellation. So, not specifically to do with ratings. I mean, that's a part of it going into it, but this is one of those shows that like we thought we could do this, but because of the current circumstances, we're not going to. And yeah, I haven't had a chance to see it. I know you have, Dodson. You said you're not too disappointed in it being canceled. Why is that?
I know that they came out with a season 2, but I remember watching that first season and be like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is kind of interesting. But it's very much like that kind of show to me is going to be second place to any other show that is that I want to watch. You know, like if there's anything else out there that's available, I'm probably going to watch that first. I'm Not Okay with This is one of those things that you kind of come back to after a while. But it just never really hooked into it. It had that good indie movie feel. Do what?
Not bingeable.
Not bingeable, in my opinion. Not really a good binge, at least, you know. But I know that there were plenty of people that did like it. I know there was plenty of people that kind of liked the indie movie vibe that they were going with. And so, yeah, you know, it's definitely bad to see it go, but I am totally okay with I'm Not Okay with This being canceled.
It was like, what's the movie I'm looking for? It was like Juno meets, I don't know, some kind of superhero thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like maybe Juno meets Stranger Things in a way, you know, because like the girl kind of reminded me of 11 a bit. But yeah, no, I mean, I didn't know there was a second season. I'm gonna have to go check it out because you're right though. It wasn't bingeable. It was one of those. Yeah. I like how you're kind of describing it. I wish I could come up with a set name for it because It's one of those things where it's like you don't want to watch every episode of it, but you'll watch like maybe one or two, and then like if you're bored and you've already watched your other shit, you'll be like, oh yeah, I guess I can finish watching this.
Yeah,
you know, like it's one of those.
It's a permanent second choice.
Yes, exactly. And so it's all right that it's kind of gone.
Yep, I definitely agree with that. But number 8 in our countdown is one that plenty of people are not okay with being canceled.
No.
And that is Sabrina, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina from Netflix, which got rave reviews. Tell us a little bit about this, Jake.
Yeah, the chilling Adventures of Sabrina is getting the axe after season 4. At Netflix. The show was renewed in late 2018 for parts 3 and 4, aka seasons 3 and 4, as part of a 16-episode order. While Netflix, like other streamers, does not release viewership information, Sabrina's first part had a favorable 80% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 90% among critics. After its first 3 parts, it now has an 84% rating among critics and a 69% with viewers. So it's still right there around that 70% mark, though, which usually says that something's pretty good. Sabrina is the latest of Netflix's series to come to an end. The streamer also announced the final seasons of its hits, The Ozark, The Kromsky Method, Dead to Me, which are all produced by the same studio that Sabrina is, Warner Brothers TV. And so this was kind of big news, and I think everybody was kind of like, "What the hell?"
I feel like Dead to Me surviving and The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina getting the axe is just a terrible, terrible content decision.
Oh yeah, no, but those are all coming to their finals as well. Those are just some other Netflix ones, and so like Dead to Me, and then Ozark, which I think kind of blew up over COVID. I heard a lot of people start talking about it, but. The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is one that I'm going to definitely be sad to see go. You know, we watched all 4 parts of it. You don't get enough satanic stuff on TV anymore. You know what I mean? Right? Like you can't just. Yeah. I'm really like, you know, like honestly, people think I'm joking, but like at the end of the day, like it kind of got like interesting to see, like, you know, people would just be like, "Hell, Satan," you know, like kind of on TV. I mean, I'm not a big Satanist or anything, but it's just like
Austin. Come to Austin, okay? Yeah. I'll take you to the satanic temple of Austin. We'll have a good time. Satanists get a bad rep, man. They
do. They're always super chill people. And in the chilling, the Adventures of Sabrina here, like it was so forward. You know what I mean? And like it was very women empowering. You know, witches, coven. After they kind of like overthrew the main dude, they started talking about, you know what? Fuck Satan. We're going with Lilith. You know what I mean? Like, so then, so this last season was actually pretty interesting. And, Sabrina really kind of like hit her stride. So it's really sad to kind of like see it end whenever like she's really her most powerful right now in the series is kind of like history. And so, but yeah, no, like it's a very empowering show. So I'm going to be sad to see it go.
Yeah. And my partner is always been big into witch stuff and witchcraft and
witchy woman.
Got me a witchy woman, a witchy non-binary. But regardless, Sabrina and as Lilith Nelly says in the chat here, it was really good about talking about bodily autonomy the harm of any religious organization that can happen when you turn it into a cult. I'm literally reading directly from her comment here, they had a trans actor playing a non-binary character, which was another something we talked about with Star Trek that we highly encourage, and we want to see more of that representation out there. So you had great representation. You had comments about religious organizations and how they can harm people by turning into a cult. You've had messages on bodily autonomy. I think it was a really, really good show and just really resonated with its audience. And it getting the axe is definitely disappointing to see.
No, it is. I think It had a great run though. The 4 seasons of Sabrina that are on Netflix, they're definitely like they have a lot of teachable moments, like you were just kind of going over. And so I definitely, if you haven't seen them, I highly suggest going back and watching them, especially considering that we're starting to get into Spooktober. It's coming up.
Yeah, exactly. Moving right along on our countdown, number 6 in there is actually another powerhouse show that I think it just ran its course, if I'm not correct, which is Vikings. And Bronwyn, you have a little bit more information on Vikings for us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Vikings and why it deserves that number 7 slot on our countdown, or number 6? Number 6, yeah, number 6.
Number 6, so fitting because it ran for 6 seasons.
Yeah.
And this is another Netflix show. So luckily their cancellation came in enough time for the writers to wrap things up in their final 20 episode season. So the show did come to a more organic end. And this is not the Vikings' final raid, however. A spin-off series called Vikings Valhalla is set to premiere next year. Taking place 100 years after the Vikings finale, this show will include many historical figures who may even be embodied by some of the familiar cast members for the original show. So taking the same actors and having them play different roles, sort of like an American Horror Story type thing, but within the same universe, which I think would be really cool. They're also saying they're going to be keeping a lot of the same crew members, so they're really taking care of their Vikings family in this. Even though they're canceled, they have this spin-off series and they want to keep as many people that were involved in the original show to go towards this show. So I think that's really cool.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
The silver lining in this canceling.
Exactly.
Right. This is one of those canceled that didn't really, really get canceled. But I know that at least my dad and my brother were just absolute fanatics of this show.
I watched a little bit of it. I watched the first season. I enjoyed it.
I was going to say, I know a lot of people who watch Vikings and were really, really kind of like bummed out to hear about its cancellation. But like you said, it was one of those where it's definitely had a 6 seasons. It's what's the classic thing from Community? 6 seasons in a movie, baby.
Yeah. I thought it's 5 seasons in a movie.
Oh, man, maybe. I think it's 6 seasons in a movie.
Yeah.
Let's look this up.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be one that a lot of people are going to be sad to see go. But for me, certainly not as sad as number 6 on the countdown. We got to pour one out for the homies because Drunk History got canceled this year too.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Drunk History, for those of you who didn't know, was a show where basically they would go through and recant famous stories of historical figures while getting shit-faced drunk. And it was one of the funniest shows that I'd seen on Comedy Central in a long time. They had an all-star cast. They brought in all different kinds of people. 1, they had different people telling stories. 2, they had different people reenacting those stories as well. And that was where the kind of the real fun of the show came in, when they were reenacting those stories. And they were like reciting the same lines that they had, but while drunk. And as soon as I stopped feeling queasy, I think that this is definitely one that I'm going to go binge and go check out. again. I feel like Jake, you were a big Drunk History buff, if I'm not correct. How are you feeling about Drunk History getting the axe?
Yeah, no, this one's super. It bums me out, man. Drunk History was always like one of the funnest ways to learn unique history facts, and I know they're not out of them. So
Right.
like, hopefully it gets picked up by somebody. Hopefully this is another one of those that Comedy Central dumps and someone picks it up. Like maybe. Or maybe they just create their own YouTube channel or do something like that, right? Like because the crew who did Drunk History, I believe it even started as a YouTube thing, and so it's one of those where like maybe they'll just go back to doing that, which I think will be fine because like they have a great group of comedians that they come on there, every so often and tell really awesome history facts, and they get shit housed while doing it, and it causes for some really funny clips, like you said. Watching like a sober person try to act out the clips of somebody who's like just super hammered is always just hilarious. And so really going to miss this one. It taught me a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, I actually learned a lot from Drunk History. I learned actual stories that happened. And it's a great way when you catch people, when you can bring history at a medium where people are going to be entertained by it and they're going to watch it, then you get that effect. Like you actually do teach people some history. And I think that's great. I mean, it went for 6 seasons, so it's not like it was a flop by any means of the word. But this has been a part of their rebranding strategy. They axed, I think at a similar time, they axed Tosh.0 because they're trying to rebrand more towards adult animation and some of their daily staples, which I don't understand how Drunk History didn't fall into that category, or Tosh.0 wouldn't fall into that category. But they're basically just saying we're doing a daily show and animated shorts now.
I know Comedy Central's making some interesting decisions here lately. It's going to be interesting to see what's kind of like next for Comedy Central.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, we've got 2 of their shows on this countdown.
Yeah.
But maybe it's because they've been seeing some of the success from some of the adult animation from Netflix per se, including the next one on our list, which comes in at number 5 for getting the axe as well. But this one I also think was something that it just kind of ran its course, right? That's BoJack Horseman, right?
Kind of ran its course.
Ran its course.
Netflix, the Netflix animated series BoJack Horseman has finally come to an end after its 6 seasons. But creator Ralph Bob Waxberg confirmed that the show could have continued for a couple of more years before wrapping things up, but that the streaming service decided that it was time to end. So the creator didn't come out and actually like say, hey, we're good here. Because, the reason why like some other shows didn't make this list, kind of like The Good Place, which was another great show that we saw wrap this year. But the creator chose to wrap it this year. It wasn't anything that got canceled, right?
Right.
With BoJack, Netflix came to the creator and said, hey, you need to wrap it up. And so while we did actually get a completed BoJack Horseman, apparently it could have went on for a couple of more seasons. And I think it would have been interesting to see what the creators and could have done with BoJack in that amount of time, and could he have actually become redeemable? Because a lot of people believe that the way the series ended, BoJack didn't end on a redeemable note. It's one of those things where I think a lot of people still consider BoJack to be canceled within BoJack, which is now canceled. So anyway.
I remember you being a big BoJack fan in college, and
loved it, man.
I remember that I watched even some of the episodes from some of these previous seasons, and that's one I want to go back to and really get a good look at, because I do think that there were some really, really cool moments in that last one, especially that funeral episode. Like, that was deep.
Yeah.
A lot of the episodes too. This is one of I think the name on this list that hurts me the most, because I'm a huge BoJack fan, and there's so much they can do, and they probably were planning on doing within this universe. And I think it's so fitting now with our previous discussion, because BoJack was canceled within BoJack. And now, so like as you touched on earlier, this one hits me deep. We all got pretty connected to the characters, and so it's definitely like I think it's sad to see him go, but it's really an interesting one to have been brought up on our cancel culture episode, just because of like the story of BoJack in general.
He really fits all those boxes.
I'll miss all those animal puns. Like,
I want to see. I think the biggest thing that I'm gonna miss is Princess Caroline.
Yeah, maybe she'll have her own spin-off show.
Yeah, dude. Jessica, my girlfriend has a poster of Princess Caroline that just says "Get shit done," and it's like, dude, that's your mantra right there. Look at Princess Caroline and just think like, "Get shit done," because that's what she does, man.
That was one that does really resonate with that get shit done kind of attitude. But one thing that doesn't resonate with the get shit done kind of attitude was the lingering program that was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that comes in at number 4 at our countdown. Bronwyn, you got a little bit more to say about this Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. news. Tell us about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, so this cancellation is a long time coming. After season 5, the writers thought that they were done for, and then ABC decided to renew it for another season. Then another season. But in the long run, it eventually came to an end. 7 seasons strong and is not too shabby, and the fact that it was able to endure another 2 seasons despite the poor ratings hopefully gave the creators time to end it how they wanted to. But yeah, this show has just been surviving despite very, very poor reactions. I didn't catch any of the show though, so are you guys sad at all?
I've watched a little bit of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
I think one of the interesting things about it is that seasons 1 and 2 were absolute bangers. Like, I think season 1 was great. Season 2 was even better because it tied into Captain America and like an actual story that was going on in the Marvel universe. And it was like, oh, this is so cool. Now we can have events that happen in the Marvel universe, and then we can get a show where we can follow how those issues are progressing on a daily basis. This is absolutely awesome. And I think they even continue doing that with, like the Infinity War and all the things that happened with that, the big Thanos snap. Like, things in the Marvel universe changed forever because of that, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had to be affected by it. But it definitely, of all the superhero shows that were out there, I mean, it was competing with Arrow and Flash and a lot of the CW verse shows. And they were just building a much better universe, a much more engaged universe, ones that people wanted to be involved with. And the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. started to feel kind of like the end credit scenes at a Marvel movie more than an actual TV show, in my opinion.
No, 100%. And it was, like you said, it was competing with so much. I believe at one time we had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Gotham, and like these are all on different channels, right? Like, so Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Gotham, the Arrow, Flash. I believe, we were starting to get like people talking about like Supergirl. There was like Legends of Tomorrow. Like, oh my God, dude. Like, it was during the time this show came out, during like peak superhero shows. And I cannot believe it lasted 7 seasons. Because like you said, seasons 1 and 2, I watched season 1. Not bad. Started to watch season 2. Was like, all right, this is pretty good. Yeah. Season 3, not good at all. Completely quit watching it. And then I heard it was garbage. And then it's so funny to hear that it actually lasted like 4 seasons after when I quit watching it.
It definitely seemed like it was limping away after season 3. And as Bronwyn, I mean, you're saying that the writers thought they were done after season 5. I don't know how they thought they did good after season 3, but that's just me. I don't know how they were proud of that job. I'm like, oh, this is great. This is good quality content. I'm shitting on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. writers. I'm sure they did a really great job.
They tried very hard.
They tried very hard. We just fell off the bandwagon, especially with all the other content that was being asked to be
too much. And we didn't even mention the Netflix ones too, because there was still Daredevil going. Like there's Netflix was dipping its toes into the superhero shows too, and so it was just like, I feel like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just kind of like flew under some folks' radars, but then also the show shot itself as well. Yeah,
it did. But speaking of a show that did not shoot itself, and honestly, the show that probably gave it definitely was the show that kind of elbowed its way into creating superhero shows as a mainstream series, which is Arrow. And Arrow is on this list. Arrow went on for 8 seasons, so it was going on for one more season longer than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and launched the Arrowverse, launched the CW cinema, or the CW televised connected universe. And it was a huge staple. I watched Arrow all the way to the end, even though it had definitely gone downhill after season 3. Season 3 was hot garbage. With Ra's al Ghul.
It got bad.
And then season 4, they casted a really great Damien Dark, but the writing went downhill. And so you had a really cool villain, really shitty writing. Season 5, really, really, really cool villain, really good writing. It's not season 5. Season 5 was Damien Dark. Season 6 is when they get to, I believe, Prometheus. That storyline was actually really, really good. But then after that, just kept on going downhill and downhill and downhill. And eventually, Stephen Amell, after the season 7 finale, announced that he was going to be leaving Arrow. And if you have your main star leaving the show, it's like, okay, so how do we close this up? How do we wrap things up? He said that he wanted to do it to spend more time with his family and all those kind of things. And so the writers really, really went out of their way, created this huge, big multiverse event that makes it so that Oliver Queen can't come back. I'm not going to do any spoilers for you guys because you definitely should watch that crossover episode. That crossover episode was an incredible crossover episode. I mean, you're able to link Birds of Prey, Smallville, Urza Miller's Flash, and not Kevin Spacey. What's his name? Kevin Conroy's Batman, all into one show. Oh man, that's pretty fucking awesome. But this show had definitely run its course, and 7 seasons was way, way, way too long for Arrow, especially in a universe that had gotten a lot more juvenile, I guess is a good way. Like there's just a lot more fantastical elements, and Arrow kind of doesn't fit in that anymore, even though it launched itself as this big kind of staple, dark, serious show. So it's really interesting to see that Arrow getting the cancellation, but it was at the request of Stephen Amell, and it was because he wants to do more things with his life other than just being the Green Arrow. And hey, that's fair. And 8 seasons is a hell of a long run. So that's nothing to be disappointed in my opinion. Jake, did you get a chance to catch any of the crossover episode where Stephen Amell said his parted out?
No, like that's something that I'm actually kind of disappointed in. I was going to say, we actually talked about things like Arrow, the show. We talked about Arrow and reviewed Arrow on a weekly basis on Geek Life in college. And great. So on this show, we would talk about Arrow almost every week and what happened in the episode and stuff like that, because, we were all such big fans of it for the longest time. And then when Flash came out, we added that to the lineup. When Gotham came out, we added that to the lineup. And then it almost got to where it was like, damn, guys, there's a lot of superhero shows. I don't think we can watch them all.
The headlines, right?
And so, but Arrow was that OG. It was one of those that we talked about in the very beginning because it kind of started. I don't want to say it started because there's always obviously been some kind of live action superhero shows, right? Like you can go all the way back to Superman back in the day and stuff. But still, it's one of those where it definitely kicked it off for this timeline or this time period. And I loved the guy who played Oliver Queen.
Stephen Amell.
Yeah, Stephen Amell. And so I liked him a lot. I thought he did a great job. And he was a good actor for something that sometimes would kind of seem like a little cheesy, because Arrow did up the cheese sometimes. And so that was the cool thing about it, though, is that it was kind of like a masculine soap opera, if you will, And I thought that was always funny that it
was funny to me because I'd have people come and be like, you're just watching a fucking soap opera. Like, no, it's not. It's a superhero show. It's different.
This is Days of Our Lives, and you're like, no, it's not. It's Arrow.
He's gonna shoot bad guys later.
But I do hope that this opens the kind of the floodgates for Green Arrow to start making more appearances in the actual DC movie universe.
Yeah, cool.
I know the show version has always been so highly popular, and I don't know if that's why DC has kind of been afraid to bring him to the big screen because of the success of the show.
Well, they got Urza Miller and Grant Gustin. You know?
And so I really hope that it does make that we get to see Green Arrow in the next Justice League of some sort.
Right. That'd be really cool to see. That would be very, very cool to see. That would be really cool to see. I don't know exactly how to transition to the next thing. Number 2 on our countdown is Schitt's Creek.
Speaking of really cool things to see.
Exactly.
Speaking of really cool
really
things.
Good.
Yeah, Schitt's Creek was great. And it's coming to an end, unfortunately. So the end is coming, Schitt's Creek fans, whether you're ready or not. The critically acclaimed CBC Pop TV comedy has officially wrapped production on its 6th and final season. And this is not really a cancellation, rather one of those mutual it's time to end things. The creators were like, hey, we think 6 seasons is enough. To which, I think Pop TV was like, okay, that's good enough. And it's still something that we're really bummed to see go this year. It was a great source of joy during this quarantine, and I can't wait for the final season to come to Netflix. If you're listening to this from Canada or the EU, I believe you already have all 6 seasons of Schitt's Creek, and in which case, fuck you. But but if you're in the US right now, we're still waiting on season 6. Or you could always use a VPN, is what all these people tell me. But we don't have one that has sponsored this podcast yet, so I'm not going to be shouting any of those out. But no, Schitt's Creek was great, man. It's Dan Levy, which is the son of the dad from American Pie, which is Dan Levy. He's in it.
Yeah.
And so, but what is his son's name? Is it Rob? I think it's Rob Levy. Anyway, yeah. Ooh, David. Thank you, chat. Okay. I love Schitt's Creek, though. It's been a great show, and it's just one of those wholesome comedies, man. Like it's one of those that like it's hard to explain, but it's made me binge it straight through, and I'm sad to see it go, but it does. It is gonna, I believe, wrap up in a beautiful way, because the 5th season started to feel like, okay, how long can they run this shitty hotel? And so now I feel like the 6th season is going to put a nice little bow on it, and I'm excited to see how they end it.
Yeah, it should be a good one.
Show.
If you've checked out Schitt's Creek, I haven't actually gotten a chance to check out more than a couple episodes.
Yeah, I really like this show, and the family just reminds me so much of my family. It's kind of scary sometimes just to see all their dynamics.
Yeah.
Even had people tell us, "Oh, you're like that family from that show," and we're like, "Yeah."
I love
man.
Laura Rose. How she pronunciates things is like, it's my favorite thing to do. I'll sometimes walk around the house and just pronounce things like Mora. Like we just need some just. Fuck, now I can't even think of anything. But it's my favorite accent. Like, I love how she kind of pronunciates words.
Just over exaggerates so dramatic about everything. David, yeah. So I saw, what was it, like a COVID chart of like you going through the different months with memes of Moira Rose, and just it's wonderful.
There used to be an Instagram account called Shit Mora Says, and they changed it to like some other account after it grew. It was one of those bait switches that kind of pissed me off, because I think they ran out of content. But like whenever it was like, it would basically have like all of because Moira Rose's like vocabulary is one of those it's legendary. Like, she uses words that like you could never fathom. Like, I don't know these words, and so
that's
it's like
my mom to a T.
Yeah, and so like it would always have it would have the word with the definition, and then it would show Mora using it in a sentence, and I would always be like, oh my god, like love it. I'm gonna miss this show a lot. Dotson, you should definitely check it out if you haven't got a chance. It's
I've
one
checked out the first couple of episodes, and I didn't get too hooked into it. Maybe I should give it some more time, because I know that it's got nothing but rave reviews from everybody.
It does take a little while to grow on you. For me, it started as one of those background noises. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I kind of like, people were like, no, you need to watch it. And so I kind of threw it on, let it play in the background while I did some other stuff or whatever. By the like end of the first season, I was kind of like hooked. And then the rest of them, it just, you just kind of want to binge through.
It gets a little sappy, I feel like, towards the end, but yeah. First few seasons, super strong.
Exactly. Well, we're down to the number 1 on our countdown. And we honestly couldn't have this countdown without talking about our number 1 on the countdown here, which is Cops, Live PD, Criminal Minds, almost all the cop shows that got canceled this year. And these got canceled for a damn good reason, in my opinion. Now, I mean, Cops ran for 33 seasons. That's insane. Live PD only ran for 4, but was doing really, really good viewers and ratings wise. And all this, of course, all these shows got canceled in the wake of George Floyd and his death and the protests that happened afterwards, where we kind of started, as a country, kind of looking at these shows and being like, well, are we glorifying police? Like, is this propaganda? And it absolutely was. I mean, I don't know how else to fucking say it. It absolutely was. It was propaganda. I mean, I remember when, to bring this to a personal experience, I remember when I got arrested back in high school, way back in the day. My brother's first thing he said to me was, I thought you watched enough episodes of Cops to know what to do. And the situation that I was in, I felt that I did the right thing, which was run from the fucking cops because they're going to do some fucked up shit to me because I've seen episodes of them doing so on cops, you know?
100%.
At the time, I wasn't really calculating the white privilege aspect into there with it. But, you know, it was something that... it's something that needed to happen, you know, and I think that we should really go back and look at some of our stuff. I mean, like, you know, one of the shows that I thought about that I had a hard time and I struggled with that did kind of feel like propaganda was Gotham. Mm-hmm. But when you think about Gotham, I mean, especially in today's context, it's kind of fucking scary because Jim Gordon is someone that you heroicize with and empathize with. But Jim Gordon is also a cop who breaks the law and aids vigilantes. And we see now what's going on in Kenosha about what happens, what that actually looks like. It's not as fucking cool, okay? It's not as something that looks very clearly like someone is doing the right thing and the wrong thing here. It's something that's ambiguous. It's something that, I mean, ambiguous to some, not to anybody with a plain sense of morality, or that's actually just able to, you know, understand what's going on here. But there's been tons of problems with these shows. I mean, Live PD was caught destroying film at the arrest of an arrest that later led to a death. And, you know, I mean, that's aiding and abetting, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, 100%.
You do shit like that. And we really shouldn't have things that, I mean, I feel very, very strongly that we should not have, that these shows were canceled for a very good reason, and that our practice of creating buddy cop shows and shows that show the police officers as these guys with these hard jobs and they're struggling to do what they can. And sometimes they just got to break the rules because, you know, they have to for the betterment of society. That's not what policing actually looks like. And when the police are breaking the rules that are meant there to protect us, they're failing at their job. And that's how they should be. That's how that should be shown. We shouldn't heroicize someone being shitty at their job.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And most of these shows were just used like, you know, like you said, propaganda. Like they were used, like Cops wasn't used as much, you know, like Cops 33 seasons. That's anime seasons, by the way. Yeah. Like this is like Cops definitely had a good
One Piece
run.
is like, damn.
Yeah, I know. And so like Cops definitely had a good run. Like it's good. Live PD, on the other hand, it's been caught doing some pretty, like Cops I think has done some deplorable shit, but Live PD is the one that I like actually like have heard about some of the deplorable shit. I don't know what Cops has done, but 33 seasons, I'm pretty sure it did something. Right. But Live PD, they destroyed tape of people being arrested. They've been caught multiple times doing that. They've been caught actually being paid by cities' PR teams. So like say Baltimore was like having like this whole thing where like, you know, everybody was talking about how shitty the cops were. Cops are beating people. Cops are doing bad. So the cops like in the city would pay Live PD to come in and do an episode showing a cop like helping an old lady or like giving somebody a traffic violation, but being like super, you know, cool about it. Like they would always, cause you know how they, you know, like cops always want to tell you there's just some bad apples, right? So there's obviously some okay dudes who chose to be cops. And so you'll see like episodes of those guys, the one or two good cops they found. And like, it'll be that guy going around being like, you know, I just love protecting the community, you know, and so then it makes people think, oh, that's all cops. All cops love protecting the community. You know, they're not like spouting all this bullshit. But really, that was like just one good cop on this force, right?
Yeah.
Like
one of the things that always used to aggravate me is when you see the videos of people like the cops pulling someone over and it's like, ma'am, I didn't think you realized, but you're in violation of free pizza day, and here's a pizza. And then like giving the pizza.
Like,
oh, thank you. Oh my God, you're so nice.
I know, I love those.
I was like, really, giving someone a literal fucking panic attack because they got pulled over for the cops, so you give them fucking pizza. I mean, fuck you. That's not a good thing. That doesn't make you good.
Where the person has like fear.
Yeah.
In their eyes because they're like, you know, a person of color or whatever, and they're being pulled over and they're just like, I wasn't doing anything illegal. And the officer's like, well, yeah, you did. You forgot to stop for a piece of pizza, you know, and you're just like, Jesus fucking Christ, read the room, police. Like, what, you know, like, but yeah, I agree with you. These shows, you know, like it's one of those where like, it's definitely, they ran their course for the most part, like Cops. And it's not like, it's not cool glorifying the police in any way. So like I think it's one of those where like, yeah, they kind of ran their course. But it does bring up like, you know, I think we even talked about it last time about shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
And like other shows that are like very much shows that I love. I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Hey, I'll admit I've watched every season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I do like it. It is one of those shows that I think differently on.
It's going to be interesting.
2020 vision.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see with 2020 if it gets the 2020 treatment, like how they treat Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And so when it comes back, if it comes back after COVID, you know, because it left on a cliffhanger too. You know, like it was one of those where the last episode of 9-9 before they went on break, you know, kind of like left you hanging. And so it's going to be interesting to see whenever they come back, you know, what they do, because they've already talked about we kind of need to address it. And, you know, as a fan of the show and as somebody who's like looking, you know, from the outside in, like you said, with 2020 vision, it's like, yeah, police brutality and your cop show, you know, like you're definitely like gonna probably need to address that one.
Exactly. Bronwyn, are you sad to see any of these shows go?
I think the saddest one for me is BoJack and Schitt's Creek.
Yeah. I was just talking about the Cops Live PD. Stuff.
I thought you did on the whole list.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't care about these shows.
Yeah, fuck them.
But BoJack, yeah, definitely a bummer.
Yeah,
BoJack, yes, I'm much more excited to see BoJack go than I am Live PD or any of those propaganda shows.